Okay. Let's see here. Okay.
Okay.
So you will see that today what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at some of the new requirements in Cognia My Diagnostics. What you will be happy to see is that with our work that we've been doing to make it less work, more, let's say, united reporting, because you do a lot of things and you have to report for different entities, but we do the same programming, same work. So we're finding ways that we can utilize that in one area. I am going to ask if you would please mute your mics so that there's not the feedback as well. All right, so in case you haven't met me, I'm Michelle Siegfried. I am the program administrator for the Schoolwide Title I programming here at the department. So I help the school-wide schools as well as targeted assistance schools that are interested in moving over to school-wide programming. Today we're going to talk about the two new pieces in school-wide title reporting. And if you've noticed, I'm staying away from the word plan. In the past, we've called it submitting your school-wide plan. What we found is schools often confuse this with their continuous improvement plan or their strategy map, and this is not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about that annual reporting of how your school-wide programming went in the 23-24 year. So we no longer using the school quality factors. We are using what is called the school-wide title reporting, and this, you will take the information from the Cognia self-assessment workbook and you put it in a simple form for reporting. Now, so it's one submission with multiple purposes. So it can be used in component 1 for that comprehensive needs assessment analysis where you gathered all that data from those 4 different areas. You've looked at it, you've found where your needs are, you found where you're doing well. So it works for that component. Component 2, there is a section where you can put your coordination of programs right in this document. So it's one less submission. Also, the title school-wide title reporting works for component 3 because it has the executive summary narrative built in that self-assessment workbook. And therefore, when we talk about how we ran our school programming, well, for a school-wide school, that's what we were embracing and having implemented. So it will come through in that reporting as well. I do just want to remind when you are doing that narrative for Cognia, I know it's more overarching as a whole district sometimes, but make sure that you include in your school-wide programming and then it meets this criteria as well. Okay, I'm going to ask one more time if we could please mute our mics, and we're going to go on to the second new submission. So the second new submission that we need is really not new. It's just new that we're attaching it here. So that other submission is the results of that annual spring review meeting. Whether we're Title I, school-wide, or targeted assistance, we are required to have that annual review meeting. So we have been doing this, whether we're a returning school-wide school or if we're a school transitioning from targeted assistance to school-wide. So the difference is now, after you have that meeting and you have the results ready to share out with your families, what you share out with your families with those results, we're going to attach here. So what does that school-wide title reporting do and look like? Again, it has that comprehensive needs analysis where we looked at all different areas as well as our student data, academic data. And then we can also see that the annual narrative executive summaries in there, the coordination of programs. Again, we can hit many components, one document, less attachments. So right there, hopefully I'm selling it to you. Okay, so now let's take a look at what it looks like. This is the cover. I am going to share that in my PowerPoint that will be shared out in next week's weekly blast along with today's recording. There are several links in here so you can get right to them. Also, if time allowed, I'll show you on our website how to find this information, as well as any other guidance that might be helpful. So if you look up here at Schoolwide Reporting, if I click on it, I'm going to bring this over. Give me 1 second for it to load. And so when it oops, jump back. Sorry about that. So here's what it looks like. It is a Word document, so you are able to put in your school and North Dakota, school name, city, and state, the date that you are turning in your reporting, and then I will try not to make you dizzy, but I do want to scroll down. The first part in the school-wide title reporting is that executive summary, and it does have guiding questions that will help you. With these guiding questions, it will help meet the criteria for Cogni's accreditation, but also as you see and read through the questions, can see how your school-wide programming would be embedded in here as well when it talks about your philosophy, your curriculum, your interventions, how your students are performing, your assessment. So all of the school-wide programming can be embedded as you answer these questions as well. Now, we talked about how in the school-wide title report, you could have the coordination of programs in this document. So it's one less extra document. And that would be down here in number 12, Cognia added for school-wide title schools. You can describe the methods of programs, federal, state, and local, of how you coordinate them. And as we move on in our webinar today, I'm going to show you how you can either type that in here for number 12 as a narrative. That is perfectly fine. I'll also show you how we have it illustrated in our sample documentation and how to attach. Okay. As I scroll down, you will see here is the rubric part of that self-assessment workbook from Cognia. And if you're going, holy moly, it looks like quite a few. If we think back to the school quality factors, there were quite a few areas or questions that we also read and ranked how we were doing as well. It does break it down into chunks or topics. For example, culture of learning, leadership for learning, engagement of learning, growth of learning, and then we're going to do some narrative. So in truth, there are 30 standards. If you have not started this process and it looks overwhelming, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and just describe how our director here at the department did this with us. NDDPI is also going through state accreditation as an agency. And so we too had to go through the 30 standards and see where we are at a starting baseline. And so my director, she had our team of 9. We blocked off, I believe it was a 2-hour meeting, hour and a half, 2-hour meeting. And she had us read through all of the standards and in our heads rank where we personally feel our office and the agency is functioning and performing both internally and for the field. And so it was real reflective, and she just gave us like 20 minutes or so to just do this process on our own. And then she brought us back together. And so then we looked at standard 1, and it says leaders cultivate and sustain a culture that demonstrate respect, fairness, equity, and inclusion, and is free from bias. And she gave us 4 index cards of different color and labeled them 1, 2, 3, and 4. So then we held up what we personally thought we were performing, functioning, and acting as an agency in office. If we all agreed, that was the what we went with. If we disagreed, and it might have been because we had veteran staff, new staff, different backgrounds, or just different interactions with people here in the office, then we took a 1.5, 2-minute time to discuss why we felt why we did, and we either averaged or went with what we, after the discussion, agreed would it be. So coming to the baseline that first time through, it will take time, it takes a process, And that's just one way, but it is a way that you can gather that information through those standards and get a starting point. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. I'm going to go back to sharing as we continue through this document. Okay. All right, so again, here's the rubric parts where you'd go through those with your team. I'm going to scroll slow just so I don't make anybody dizzy. At the end of the 30 standards, there is a spot for a brief narrative in the two areas in which we tend to focus, and rightfully so, because the first one, we want to look at our strengths. So you're going to pick 3 to 5 of the standards where you feel, or you've shown through this process, that this is a strength for your school and you're doing well and you want to keep continuing, and why you're doing well. And then the second area is that area of growth. Where are we finding that we need to focus, maybe put more attention, resources, interventions, and strategies so that we can grow and improve. Okay, so this is what the actual school-wide title report looks like. I'm going to close that out and go back to our PowerPoint. So when filling this out, you might be going, okay, so how do I get that information? Because with just looking at the rubric, you don't have the background information for each one of those standards. So where you get that is from Cognia's self-assessment workbook. And we have been partners with Cognia and working together to find ways that we can make it less burdensome for the districts, schools to meet the requirements, whether they're state or federal, while still hitting all the things, but not having to recreate, make another plan, another report. So Cognia Self-Assessment Workbook works for accreditation. It also works for the school-wide plan requirements. And again, I have a link here, so I'll click on it. It's going to take just a second for it to come up. And it'll take you right into the self-assessment workbook. And it went way to the bottom of it for some or not all the way to the bottom. Whoops. Sorry, not trying to make you dizzy. But you will see here is the self-assessment workbook. And then here is where it talks about the different things in it, as well as those, like it talks about getting together and finding those ratings and how to do it. Down here is the actual self-assessment rubrics for the standards. I'm just going to click on this first one, and you'll see this is what my director had us read ourselves. And so here is the question: leaders cultivate and sustain a culture that demonstrates respect, fairness, equity, and inclusion, and is free from bias. And then we read through, well, what does a 4 look like? What does a 3 look like? What does a 2 look like? And what does a 1 look like? And then we made that decision and we rated, then we discussed, and then our final decision as an office is what we would have put on that school-wide title reporting. Does that make sense? So in a sense, I look at the Cognia self-assessment workbook and the school-wide title report form as when I was back in the classroom and I'd give my students an assignment. They'd turn in 20 papers, 15, 20 papers. You go home at night, you correct them, but you put just the score in your grade book. And so this is the process, and you have to dig into it, and there's room for you to put the evidence and comments for Cognia and for the process of growing your school-wide programming. But for the baseline start, then you'll take that rating, you'll put it over on your school-wide title report, and then you can look, and it's nicely organized. You can look at all the scores under culture and see, how you're doing in the different key characteristic areas. Okay, so that's how they tie together. Let me go back here. I'll look here. Any questions on Cognia's self-assessment workbook at this time? And I can't see the chat, so Shelley, if you would help me with that.
No questions in the chat, just people announcing names and being present.
Yay. Okay. And please do, if you have questions, put them in the chat or feel free to unmute and just slow me up. All right. Okay. And there'll be plenty of time, I believe, at the end for questions as well. Okay. So the second new submission, like I had stated, is the results of that annual spring review meeting. Now, again, this is not new because Title I programs, as I stated before, whether you're targeted assistant or school-wide, you are required to hold that annual review meeting in the spring, and it is a formal meeting. This is the meeting where if parents come, that's great, but it is not a, a necessary requirement. What we need at the table for this meeting is our stakeholders, our team that's been implementing and putting on our school-wide programming so that we can evaluate and see our results of our programming. So what are the results of this meeting typically look like? Well, you have your meeting minutes with the background information about our students, our school, and our programming, any evaluation programs and questions and surveys, a description of how did you evaluate and assess, what are your procedures, and then how was the data analyzed, what are our findings, and now what conclusions and recommendations do we have going forward. So we do provide in our sample documentation, SW, ideas for agenda items as well as what meeting minutes might look like. This is a template, so you are welcome to use it as a guide. Please personalize it and make it your own by putting your school district, your letterhead, and your verbiage for what works best for you. You will see also that off to the left here, I do have the link for that school-wide Title I record keeping, as well as monitoring when it is your school's turn. Okay. So I'm not going to click there and go there, but this will take you straight to our website, and then you can look through all the sample monitoring, sample record keeping documentation. The ones I'm focusing on today is SW 13 and 14 because it is that annual review meeting, which is the agenda and the actual take place, keeping the minutes and the results. And then SW 14, just a reminder, is making sure that we get those results out to the parents, or how do we notify them where we post them. So if you don't email them or send them out directly to the parents, let's say we post them on our website, which is perfectly great, but we do have to notify all parents where they can find and locate it. Okay. All right, so now we get to play and have some fun. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take you into Cognia. So I am going to, one moment, please. I have to jump ahead here. While I'm switching screens, I'm going to unshare and reshare. I just want to reiterate, in case maybe this is a question that somebody has and it just hasn't surfaced. The self-assessment workbook from Cognia, if you're going, well, where do I find that? Where do I get that? Cognia should have sent that out to the administrators, and I also do have the link to it as well there. Okay, so this is in Cognia, My Journey. You'd log in and then you come to where it says institution where you'd like to view. I did reach out to a school and ask if I could use their space, and Roosevelt at Carson said sure. So I thank them for letting us use their space. I will be deleting everything I do so that they can walk through it as well and learn the process, but I do thank you for letting me use your space. So we go in and, oops, I already made a mistake. Do you see my mistake? So my first mistake was I went Roosevelt School District. We can never, never, never put our plans in the district. So now I have to go back and say Roosevelt again. And okay, so I clicked on the district. I want to go to the school. We always do school-wide plans in the school. We can't do school-wide plans as a district because we know the needs of a second grader quite a bit from a seventh grader or a senior. So yes, remember to go into your school. You'll see it up here to make sure that you're in the right space. You scroll down to go to diagnostics, click on the blue button. It's going to think a bit. When Cognia did their updates this year for us here at the department, there are some changes, so it will look a little bit different. However, you will see that all of your previous plans are still here, even though the platform has changed some. The previous plans should still be in your diagnostics. Now, if you at the district level, and I'm just going to show you this because it has happened and it's kind of painful because we don't have to always reinvent the wheel, but we always have to update, revise, and make current. So it's okay to look back at what we did in the past. So I would recommend not deleting these. But if you accidentally come over here, let's say to these three dots, you will see there is the option to delete. I nor Cognia or anyone at the department do we delete your plan, so please be careful to not delete your plan if you, especially with the validation of them being a good resource. Okay, so just be careful. So today we're going to jump into making our 23-24. So we're going to come over to the three little white lines over here in the upper left-hand corner. We'll click on those. Our screen will shift. And then we're going to go down to where it says Content Library. We'll click on Content Library. You will see that there are two tabs that pop up. The one we want to use is the North Dakota Department of Public Instructions. And this is real handy with the new edits. You only have one choice, which is the right choice, but they also put the year span that we want for our reporting. And this is kind of exciting for me because in the past it was confusing. What do we title our plans? Because our continuous improvement plan, we date 24-25, which we're going to use this reporting to plan for 24-25, but really what you're sending here is your synopsis of how this year went. Okay, so it's got it in there for you already. So we're going to go over to the three dots on the right-hand side under actions. We'll click there. It says start a diagnostics, and yes, that's what we want to do. Once we get here, you will see that it gave it the diagnostic name that I clicked on. You can keep it just like this. However, it does have the date, and farther over hidden is the time that we created the plan. So we really don't need that information. So the easiest way to rename your plan is to highlight all those extra date and time numbers. And we're just going to hit our backspace and they're gone. This is kind of a long name, but it is perfectly fine. If you want to change it, shorten it up. If you want to put your school name and say Roosevelt Schoolwide Report 23-24, you can. If you want to just keep it simple and keep what is the default, that is just fine. You will see that right now we're in the status of a draft, and that's because we haven't opened it yet. So we have to click Open Diagnostics. It'll spin and think about it. And now you'll see that it's unlocked because if we want to lock it, we have to click the button. Okay. As we scroll down in the past, it would shift to the right and your table of contents would come up. You will see as I scroll down that does not happen anymore and it looks kind of blank. So they've made it more component by component versus seeing the whole reporting at once. You can come over here to the left towards the top where there's this little arrow and the bar. If you click on that, it'll shift to the left. And again, here's where that table of contents can be located. If I click here, whoops, wait a minute, it's not working. Okay. Well, let's try it over here. So if here's your introduction where we're going to put all of our requirements. If I hit next, oh, there we go. I have to hit next, and then it shows us over on the left-hand side those 4 components that we're going to work through. So at any time, I could click on these to bounce between the 4 components. Otherwise, it will show you one component and you'll have to use your previous and your next. So that's the biggest change with the layout, but the table of contents on the left keeps the familiarity of last year. Okay, so when you're completing your reporting, you'll have to confirm that you did your comprehensive needs assessment and read through the paragraph, and it's saying yes or no that the school has completed a comprehensive needs assessment that includes strategic thinking around their current reality and potential future. Data analysis must include student achievement data, school program process data, perception data, demographic data to identify the needs of all student subgroups. And then the requirement is listed below. So you need to upload at least 2 supporting documents, that comprehensive needs assessment with student academic achievement data, and then the school-wide title reporting, which we got the information from the self-assessment workbook. So it tells us what we need here is 2 things. So we're going to take a leap of faith that this is done at Roosevelt. We'll say yes, and then we want to put our attachments. Okay, so now we have an add attachment button. Uh-oh. So, and now I can't see the bottom of my screen. I'm going to move this just for a moment so I can find my other button. Okay, I got to bring this up. Okay. Sorry about that. I forgot it hides it when I go big. Okay, so when we come here for add attachments, you click add attachment. So the 2 things that it said we needed was that comprehensive needs assessment and our school title report, correct? So I have created some sample documents that we can add here, and I'll show you step by step what to do. So I'm going to go select file. When I select file, you'll see that this came up where I can look and see. I'm going to go to quick access because I know I have them ready there. And I have a sample comprehensive needs assessment data. So I'll select that. I'll hit open. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Why that did not, okay. Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong one. Let's go to this one. Thank you. There we go. So here it came, our sample comprehensive needs assessment with our student assessment data, and you have to name it. So this is what the file is named on my computer, but now you have to name it here. So for your easy record keeping in this area, as well as identifying for here at the department, I'm just going to call it 23, 24 comprehensive needs assessment with student academic assessment. Whoops, I do know how to spell. Okay, so I would just label this exactly what it is, and then we're going to hit next. You're welcome to describe. You could put in here, you know, whether you attached NWEA, if you attached stars, what you can list what you put for your academic achievement. You don't have to have a description, but you do have to have a name. And truth be told, most schools do not put a description, and I don't need it because I open it to see what it is. All right, so then you click next. You will see that it has already, because I was under component 1, it already put that we're going to add it under component 1 and that the school has completed the comprehensive needs assessment and so forth. So the comprehensive needs assessment only goes under component 1. So we're going to hit save. So you will see now that we have one item attached under component 1. Now, the second item that we need under component 1 is that school title reporting form. So we're going to hit add an attachment. We'll hit select file. Again, I have this in my Quick Docs, in my Quick Access, because I was playing before we jumped on today. So here's my school-wide title report template. I'm going to hit open. It's going to jump in here. It will use the exact file name from my computer, and now I'm going to decide what to name it. So I'm going to call it school-wide title report. I'll hit next. Now, this is where it's really fun and cool because we know that we need it under 1 because it had those standards that we went through and we talked through where we ranked. Are we a 4? Are we a 2? Are we a 3? Are we a 1? And then we put our where we're doing well and we want to keep doing, and then we put, oh, we found some needs. That's part of that comprehensive needs, which is this component. So that's why we're attaching it here. But if you think back to my previous slides, in here in question 12, it talked about the coordination of programs. And so if Roosevelt talked about their coordination of programs in here, they're going to want to attach this also to component 2. So we don't have to go through all the steps again to find it and attach it. It's already attached. We just have to come up here where it says select a section. We're going to hit drop down. We're going to take component 2, and then you have to select an item. And this is ensuring that we do those strategic themes and those coordination of programs. And then we're going to add. So when we attach that school-wide title report, you're saying, hey, it meets the needs of component 1, it meets the needs of component 2. But also, if you think back to my previous slides, it has that executive summary, that annual summary of how our programming went, which is component 3. So we're going to, again, come up to select a section. We'll select annual evaluation. Select an item. This is because we have to assess our programming each year. Yep, and we're including that executive annual summary in this report, so we'll add it. And then when I have all 3 of them attached to that school-wide title report, I'll hit save. So you'll see that it's here under component 1, and it's light because that's the component we're working in, but we're also going to see it as we move into components 2 and 3. You attach it once and it covers all 3. Okay, so now we're going to, it looks like we're good in component 1. We have found and attached everything that we need for our reporting. Let's hit next. Again, you're going to read through and assure that you're using those strategic themes, critical initiatives. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but you're strengthening the academic program, you're increasing the amount and quality of learning, and we're getting that well-rounded education and addressing the needs of all of our children, especially those at risk and not meeting the state academic standards. So we're going to say, yep, this is what we're doing. And then what do we need here? Well, you need your coordination of programs, either from that reporting, which we had. And if you look here under attachments, see how it has a little 1? That's because we aligned this Title I reporting to component 2. Or you can use a different document. For example, how we did it or illustrated it in our sample monitoring documentation. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on attachments and show you that it's light here because we're saying, hey, I already showed you my coordination of programs and it's in here. Now, if you want, you can also attach the sample monitoring documentation, but this will suffice as long as you listed and explain, or you can put them both. So I have a sample there to show you as well. So let's say I didn't put that information in my school-wide title report, so I'd click add an attachment. I'm going to go to select files. Again, it always takes me to the bottom. We'll go to quick access. If you see here, it says coordination of program description. We're going to open. Okay, now this again is the file name on my computer. I just want to call it coordination programs. I'm going to come down and I'm going to click the next button. And because I did it under component 2, it automatically put what I need and I hit save. So now I have it here, or I could have put it in my title report. Okay. So we have, and here I'm just going to click on this to show you my sample that I created. If it opens up. Okay, and so this is the documentation that I created for a sample. And what I did was I just stole it from similar to in our sample documentation. In our sample documentation, it does have the chart form above it for like Title 1, Title 2, Title 4. So it's a little different. I didn't think to take an exact screenshot. I took the bottom portion that I added to our sample documentation. But so you could do it as a list like this, you could do it as a chart, or you could do it as a narrative in that school-wide title report. Okay. So this document, our title report, and we're almost done reporting. Okay. So this has met the requirements for component 2. So we're going to move on to component 3. Oh, one more thing. The veterans might have noticed prior years in component 2, we had you attach your strategy map, your continuous improvement plan. We no longer are having you do that simply because I can go on Insights and see it. You send it into Joe Kolosky's office. So I have access to it. The department has access to it. So that is one less submission that you need. Okay. Component 3. So this is that annual evaluation of your school-wide plan, and we talked about how that's right embedded in those questions in the self-assessment workbook, and you'll talk about your programming throughout it. So you can have one or, oh no, you have two, excuse me, submissions for here, but only one for that evaluation. So we're going to click yes, we do have them. We're going to tap on our attachments. We see down here, we have that annual review here already, but another piece of that review, and it might seem like, well, if we do the narrative, why are you having us send the minutes or the results of that annual spring meeting? Because that annual spring meeting is crucial. It's that reflection. It's that moving forward moment of what are we going to do to keep improving to provide that best education for all of our kids, because we are functioning as school-wide. So seeing how you are required to record keep it, this is a good place for me here at the department and the department to see a snapshot of a true reflection of your programming. So we have one more attachment we need to do. So we're going to go over to add an attachment. Again, we'll hit select files. I apologize. Whoops, I hit the wrong one. We got to go up to quick access and do I have my, oh, yep, sample annual review meeting results. So let's click on that. We're going to click open. And so then here, I'm just going to put annual review. Whoops. Results. Okay, I'll hit next. Again, with putting it right under the component, or right in component 3 as we're working, it puts all the stuff we need. We don't have to click anything up here. It's already done for us. So we just hit save. And now you will see we have the 2 required for component 3. Just an example here too, like I showed you with the coordination of programs, when I put together my sample, documentation, I made it a Word document. And again, I took off of that slide that sampling there. Okay, so you have an idea of what what it should look like. Okay. The last component is an optional component, and that's component 4 on commingling of funds. The school may choose to commingle their Title I, Title II, and Title IV funds. If that is what your district is or your school feels is best for it, and you decide to commingle, you click yes. There is no needed attachment because the process has changed. Instead of having an attachment here, this same question is asked on your consolidated application. And so at the time of filling out your consolidated application is when this decision needs to be made. And so there's no attachment here. That is documented in the consolidated application. If I hit next, it brings me down to the bottom, if you recall, in previous years, where all the attachments are listed. So you can see, this is a completed report. No more is needed unless you don't have everything within these items. Okay, let me say that again. So for example, in component 1, we need that comprehensive needs assessment. What did we find? Where are our strengths? Where do we need to focus? Especially focusing on that student academic assessment data. So if in here let me click on this to show you my example, which I stole from our sample documentation. You can do it as a chart. You can see here's the 4 types of data. Here's how we got it. And then talk about what you find or the results, or reviewing what you found in your data. Then it talks here about when are we holding meetings to go over the data so we can figure out what we're doing well and where we need to focus. The second part that I brought, and I love this documentation we have, because again, it has the 4 types of data at that quarterly meeting. What did we find? What are the trends? What are the themes? What did we find out? And then action required. Do we need to make changes to our school-wide plan? Do we need to cross-analyze? Do we need to gather more information? So this is kind of like, what did we use? What did we find out? What are we going to do? And so this is a really helpful tool, I believe. Some schools, but also with this, I do need a sampling of your student academic data. No individual scores, it's by group. So it'd be like a 3rd grade class, 10th grade, no names, no individual students, but a sampling of what academic assessments you used, and then the comprehensive needs analysis. So this, and in some schools, they'll do the chart here and then they'll attach the academic data at the bottom. Some will do it as a separate documentation. But what I'm hoping that you see through this presentation is that there's less items that need to be attached. In the past, it might have been asked of schools to attach 10, 15 items. That is not the ask anymore. Keep house of stuff at the school level. Yes, absolutely, keep record. But for reporting here, this is what I need. This is what I need. Okay. So after you have all of your items attached, then you're going to come up here and you're going to lock your diagnostics. And you can lock it in between and you can unlock it as needed. But when you're done, you're going to lock it and you can say all report items attached. Report. Or you could just go done with report are attached. Oh, I love Grammarly. So you can put a couple sentences, you can, or nothing. You don't have to put anything. You can just leave it blank and lock it as well. It's up to you. So then you hit save. Now here's one feature I do want to show you, and that's why I locked it, is you can come down here to view history log, and you will see when your plan was created, when it was opened, and when you locked it. So then when I go in to review it, I'm going to unlock it. So then there'll be another column or row that'll say I unlocked it. And then I believe I type review plan or to review. And then when I am done looking at your plan, I will type completed and my initials, or I'll put missing in component 1 and I'll list what's needed. Missing in component 3, and I'll list what's needed. So this history log is a way for us to communicate back and forth. So I look, if this is locked and I find something missing, then I'll look to see if you've been in and unlocked it and put anything in since my guidance. So this is a handy spot to look back and forth with that history log. Okay, so we have it locked. We have everything in it. Whoops, now I lost my table of contents. So we're going to come over here. It slides to the right. And now what we do is we come to the lower left where it says send to workspace. So if you hit send to workspace, then it will come to me in an email that I know you're completed. So you're going to click on Title 1 Schoolwide Program Components, and then you'll hit send. Okay, and that's the one that I'm not going to do because it is just a sample. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing here and take a breath and see if we have any questions.
Nothing in the chat so far, and I don't see any hands.
Okay, then I'm going to keep cruising because we have 12 minutes and I am not going over 12. So here is a summary of what I just showed you, the Title I Schoolwide Program components, the things that are needed in each component. So this will be a great reference for you. Again, you will see it can be completed in as easy as 3 or 4 attachments. You do not need more. If we have questions, we ask. Otherwise, I do believe the system that we have set up, this is a great way of making it an easy process for you to provide the necessary needed information that gives us a good picture of your school-wide programming.
We do
Okay.
have a couple more questions now that just popped up. We aren't sure if we have the self-assessment workbook. Where can we get that?
Okay, so Cognia should have sent it out to your administrators. If not, it will be in the link of my PowerPoint, and I can also show you where to find it on our website. Any other questions, Shelley?
Yeah, one more. Where can we find the LAR agenda that you showed?
LAR agenda. I showed an L. I'm not sure what I showed.
L. Kimball was the one that had the question.
Oh, are you talking about the annual meeting agenda? That is in our school or in our school-wide sample monitoring documentation, and it would be SW13. And I also have that linked in the PowerPoint.
It's the local annual review.
Okay, so yep, that's your, yep, it's your annual review of your meeting. Yep. And so that is SW13 in our sample monitoring documentation, and I will show you that as well. I can go back and click on that real handy. Okay, let me see here if I can get my screen to go backwards. Oh, I went the wrong way. No. Okay, hold on. You got a sneak peek there. Okay, so this right here, is this the agenda you were asking about? It's right under here under school-wide title SW 01 and through 15. And there's a table of contents on the side here. Oops, I thought it was. Nope, compiled. Okay. Okay, I don't mean to get you dizzy, so I believe I'm going to guess a number. We're going to go 36. Too far, but I'm close. All right, here we go. Oh, yep. Sorry. So here it is right here. So I will have the link in the PowerPoint, and if we get a chance, I'll show you some quick stuff on our website where to find it as well. Okay. Good questions. All right, so I am going to cruise past these because we already saw those. We took a look. We summed up. These are the 4 components and what is required in them. Here are my reminders that when you are setting up your school-wide reporting, please label them. Oh, and I boo-booed here. This should say reporting. That's my first error. It is 23-24 that we are reporting. These now have a window. Before they are due June 1st, but what we have found here at the department is life happens, spring is busy, and so we are turning it into a window. So if you are ready and you can submit by June 1st, that is great. And if you need until the 15th, that's fine. But we are hoping for a firmer cutoff at the 15th, unless there's extenuating circumstances, just because of the grace of the window. Also, I have 2 audiences on today, my veteran school-wide schools and then my school-wide planning year schools. This is all new and whatnot, so I apologize for my speediness, but also you have 2 other requirements. The other schools, you have already done this, so this is not for you. This is only if you are a school-wide planning year school. You will need to have your school-wide report, your plan that you're creating, approved by the school board, and submit a cover letter which includes the date of that school board approval with its minutes, emailed to myself or Shelley here at the department by June 1st. Okay, so you do have that extra layer because you're just starting out. So your school board has to say, yep, we like and approve what we see that your vision for school-wide programming, and then get that into us here. So that brings to my last slide is my contact information, but here I also will have in the PowerPoint where you can jump right to our website. The logo is linked as well as the words. So if you click on it, it takes us right there. If you come under education programs, federal title, Title 1A, school-wide targeted assistance programming is here. And then you will see here is school-wide. And I know I'm going fast, but I will send this all out to you, I promise. And then here it talks about school-wide programming, the checklist, and lots of great information. I want to just jump to a couple to highlight. If you come here under school program components, you will see this is the stuff that we just went over in that Cognia platform, My Diagnostics for Reporting. Here is that Title I report template. Here is to get to Cognia, where they also have the self-assessment workbook located. Okay, so that's under the school-wide part. My planning year schools, here's your tab, and you can get that cover page here. So just a couple things there. I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to cruise to the other part I want to show you. So if I come back here, whoops, excuse me, I'm going to go back up to federal title programs. And if I scroll down, here's that federal title programs monitoring. If I click there, this is all the federal title programs monitoring sample documentation guidance. But if you scroll down, you will see here is the Title I school-wide section. So if I click here, that'll take you to that same document that I have linked in the PowerPoint. So it's just another way to access it. Okay. So let's Move the website out of the way. Any questions on the reminders? And if you have any questions, please reach out. I love visiting on the phone and answering questions with the back and forth. If it's easier and more quick and efficient to do an email, that's great too. And then I can send documentation or guidance to you. But do know that we are here to help. Shelley is amazing at this as well and can help with lots of things. So I'm going to stop sharing and call for any questions.
Would you like to stop the recording as well or keep going?
I think we'll keep the recording going just in case we have questions that are that would be helpful to others as well.
Okay.
Because we only have 3 minutes. Okay. Also, just a little side note for those of you who wear many hats, and I know you do, after working 25 plus years in the public schools, I know your hats get quite tall, almost like Dr. Seuss, I'm guessing, the cat in the hat. We at the department got feedback from school-wide people as well as foster care, homeless, and neglected. And so in the spring, we do have our fall title training for school-wide and targeted assistance. And Jen Withers and I also host foster care, homeless, and neglected and delinquent in-person web or training. And so we heard from the field that they would like those back to back. So we are having those back to back. Shelley, could you glance at our September calendar and then just throw out those dates to the field so that they can plan ahead and know that we are trying to accommodate the request to have them back to back.
Yeah, we're going to do both of those here at the Capitol. The training for the foster care, homeless, and neglected and delinquent will be September 25th, and then the Title I training meeting will be on September 26th.
Thank you. So just a little sneak peek or save the date. It just helps with staffing and sanity. All right. Not seeing any other questions. Please, we got like less than 60 seconds. If you would put in the chat who you are and what school you're from, that would be amazing. And in my last 30 seconds, which I should have done at the beginning, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all of your hard work, your dedication, and all you do for all of your kiddos, but especially those kiddos at risk. So I thank you for joining us. We will send this out and you have an amazing day and hopefully a restful long weekend. All right. Thank you. Okay, Shelley will stop the recording.